If you've ever gotten into family history, you know this feeling. It's a kind of frustration, really. You've
Hmm.
got the data, you have the names, the birth dates, marriage locations, census records, you have all these static ingredients.
The facts.
Exactly, the facts. But the actual story is missing. You know, your ancestor, Francis Marion Easley, was born in 1848, but how do you get past just the dates? How do you create a real narrative?
And that is precisely the gap we're going to bridge today. We're moving from just documenting facts to actually creating a story and doing it fast.
Okay, so what's the mission for this deep dive?
The mission is to take all that great genealogical data you've already found on Family Search
Yeah.
and run it through an engine, a synthesis engine called Notebook LM.
And what does that give us?
It allows you to generate almost automatically two really cool media outputs.
Or-
First, an audio overview, which is basically a little personalized podcast about your ancestor.
Oh, wow.
And second, an explainer video, which even comes with AI-generated visual to match the story.
And to make this really concrete, we're using a case study, right? Francis Marion Easley.
We are. He was born in 1848 and died in 1940. I mean, think about that 92-year span.
It's huge. He was born before the Civil War, lived through Reconstruction, the whole agricultural era, and then saw the Great Depression.
It's an incredible slice of history. He's the perfect subject to show how you turn a list of facts into a living narrative.
All right, so where do we begin?
It all starts with the foundation, which for most people is Family Search. We're assuming you have a free account and, a family tree that goes back at least 4 or 5 generations.
So you've got some data to work with.
Exactly. You need some raw material.
And I think the first move is pretty strategic. It's about picking the right ancestor. You don't want to do this for someone who already has a ton of stories written about them.
That's the key. So once you're in your family tree, the first thing you want to do is switch the view to the fan chart.
Okay, the fan chart, I like that view.
It's great. And what you do is you set the view to 6 generations, and then you click on the stories overlay.
Ah, and that color codes everyone, right?
It does. It basically creates a heat map for narrative potential.
Mm.
It shows you who has 10+ stories, who has a few, and who has 0.
And that's our target. Someone like Francis Marion Easley, who is information-rich but story-poor.
Perfect way to put it. They're the ideal candidates.
Okay, so we found him. We've clicked on his name. Now we need to pull out 4 essential blocks of data. These are the puzzle pieces for the AI. What's number 1?
The first one's the easiest. It's the brief life history.
And that's right under the About button on their page.
Yep. It's that little summary. For FFE, it says he was born in War Eagle, Arkansas, married Margaret Clementine Brinson, had a bunch of kids, and died in Oklahoma in 1940. You just copy that whole block of text.
Simple enough. Okay, what's next?
The second piece is about context, and it's really important for the tone. It's the relationship detail.
Now, why is that so vital? I mean, does it really matter if the AI knows he's my second great-grandfather?
It absolutely matters.
Yeah.
You don't want the output to sound like a Wikipedia article, right?
Right, yeah.
By telling it your exact relationship, like my father's mother's father's father, or just my second great-grandfather, you're giving the AI a point of view. It makes the story personal. It frames it as speaking to you about your family.
I see. So you use the view relationship feature to get that exact wording.
That's the one. Nail that down and copy it.
Okay, 2 pieces down. The third one is the skeleton of the story, the timeline.
Yes, but you can't just grab the basic summary. Click the timeline button, and then you need to add some filters.
What do you recommend?
We definitely recommend checking residence, spouse, children, parents, and siblings. You want the whole picture.
Full geographical and family sweep.
Exactly. For FME, that data shows this classic migration story. He's born in Arkansas, then moves to Texas where some kids are born, and he ends his life in Oklahoma. The AI can see that pattern of movement, so you copy that entire data set.
All right. And the last piece. This is the one that really turns it from genealogy into history, doesn't it?
It really does. It's the historical context. For this, you'll need the AI Research Assistant, which you might need to enable in Family Search Labs. It's a newer feature.
And what's the prompt you use there?
It's a simple but powerful one. What was it like when Ancestor Name was alive?
And it just uses his birth and death dates.
Yep, 1848 to 1940. And it instantly pulls back the major societal themes. For him, it highlighted the Civil War, post-war Reconstruction, the shift in the agricultural society.
Which we know he was part of since the 1880 census listed him as a farmer.
Right. And it even included the Great Depression at the end of his life. So now you have the facts and the world he lived in.
So we have our 4 blocks of text, the life history, our personal relationship, that detailed timeline, and the historical backdrop. Now we shift tools over to Notebook LM.
Right. This is the synthesis engine, the lab where we build the story. You'll need a Gmail account, and it gives you a good number of free uses to start, so there's plenty of room to experiment.
When you open a new notebook, what's the process? We have 4 separate pieces of text.
This is probably the single most important step in the whole process. You are going to load all 4 texts as one single source.
Okay, so you don't upload 4 different notes. Why is it so critical to paste all 4 blocks together into the copy text option and then hit insert just one time?
Because if you upload them as 4 separate files, the AI just sees them as 4 separate silos of information.
It doesn't connect the dots.
It can't. It might pull a fact from the timeline and a fact from the history, but it won't be forced to see the relationship between them. By pasting them all into one source, we force it to synthesize.
So it has to connect his move to Texas with the post-Reconstruction era.
It has to. Or connect his life as a farmer with the economic disaster of the Great Depression. So once you have that single rich source loaded, now you can move on to the fun part. Media creation.
And you'll see tabs for an audio overview and a video overview, but you have a specific instruction here. Don't just click the main button.
No, please don't. That
Yeah.
will just give you a very generic output. The key is to look for the little pencil icon on those media tabs.
That's the magic button.
That's the magic button. It unlocks all the customization options and, more importantly, the specific prompting that really shapes the story.
Let's start with the audio, the little ancestral podcast.
Okay, so you click the pencil. You can select your language, the depth like brief or deep dive. But the most critical setting is the output length.
And what did you find works best?
The default setting seems to be the sweet spot. It gives you an audio file that's about 7 to 10 minutes long.
Perfect for a commute or a quick listen.
Exactly. It's digestible.
Right.
And it takes maybe 5 to 8 minutes for the AI to generate it.
So what's the real-world use for this? Why do I want a 10-minute audio file about Frances Mary Neasley?
The utility is just huge. First, it's so easy to share with family, especially younger family members who might not read through pages of dates.
Sure.
Second, it really deepens your own connection. I mean, imagine driving through War Eagle, Arkansas, and listening to this story. It narrates the landscape for you.
And the source material mentioned another application, something about temple work.
Yes, listening to it on the way to the temple, using that 10-minute overview to really focus your mind on his life, on his experiences, before you perform ordinances for him or his family.
That's powerful. It transforms it from a task into like a reflective journey. Okay, what about the video overview?
Same first step, and it's just as critical. Click the pencil icon. After you pick the language, you get to choose a visual style.
And there are a couple of good ones.
Yeah, the source mentioned 2 favorites, whiteboard, which has a clean sort of illustrative feel, and heritage, which gives you a more historical, almost photographic vibe.
And this one takes a bit longer to generate, I assume.
It does, usually about 10 to 15 minutes. And that's because it's using Gemini technology in the background to actually create images that support the narrative. It's building a little mini documentary just from the text we gave it.
Which brings us to, I think, the most important part of this whole conversation, accuracy and responsibility.
Right.
We're dealing with AI. It's working only from our sources, so it's probably over 90% accurate. But it can still make assumptions, can't it?
It can. Logical assumptions, but they might be wrong.
So using FME as the example, he was the right age, living in Arkansas during the Civil War. How do we stop the AI from just jumping to the conclusion that he fought in the war if we don't actually have a record of that?
That is the ultimate test, and it all comes down to how you prompt it. It's about sophisticated prompting.
Right.
You can't just trust the AI to know the difference between he lived during this time and he personally did this thing.
And you do this in that section that says, what should the AI host focus on?
That's the place. You have to give it a very clear 2-part instruction.
Okay, what's part 1?
Part 1 is you tell the AI host to focus only on proven facts. Things that come directly from the timeline and the brief life history. The dates, the places, the names. Those are your anchors of truth.
And part 2 is how you handle the historical context.
Exactly. You have to instruct the host that when they talk about the Civil War or the Great Depression, they must state clearly that this is conjecture about the time period, not a direct biographical fact, unless it's explicitly supported by one of your sources.
So the 1880 census says he's a farmer. That's a fact.
That's a fact. But his involvement in the war is an assumption. So you have to tell the AI to hedge its language. To say something like, Francis lived during the Civil War era, a time of great upheaval in Arkansas, but the records provided don't detail his specific involvement.
That single nuance is everything. It's the difference between a good story and a misleading one.
It is. And if you run it and it gets it wrong, you just go back, adjust that one prompt, and run it again. Rerunning with better guidance is the key.
So what we've really done here is we've transformed a story. We've taken Francis Marion Easley from just a list of facts and turned his life into this consolidated, shareable media narrative.
Right. And I think the big takeaway here is that the power of this tool isn't just the automation. It's the strategic constraint you apply to it. You are using history to frame the facts, not to invent new ones.
So the challenge for you, listener, is to keep refining your input, not just adding more data, but richer sources, so that the AI's story becomes more and more verifiably true. You're moving beyond just reading about a life to actually experiencing the sequence and the context of an ancestor's 92-year journey.